The Supreme Court declared in July that 3 million acres of eastern Oklahoma has always belonged to the Muskogee Creek Nation. In the 1830s, the government under President Andrew Jackson forced the nation from their original homeland and signed a treaty promising them and 4 other tribes nearly half of what's now Oklahoma. But after they got there, parts of the Muskogee Creek Nation's land were sold to private owners. By 1907, state officials were denying the tribe almost all rights to any land. So the Supreme Court's reversal was a major win for the Muskogee Creek people and all Native Americans, for whom the founding of the United States has meant a long decay of land rights.
The Supreme Court gave the tribes what they knew that they already had but did not utilize it.
It is a recognition of inherent tribal sovereignty. It's respect for the treaties. It's holding the federal government to its word.
All these leaders, but leaders that we'll never know, family members and ancestors who each in their heart fought to just keep us going. That was done just in the hope that a better tomorrow would come. And when that case came out, that tomorrow finally arrived.
The Supreme Court decision has major implications, specifically for Native Americans who were convicted of crimes on land that is now recognized as Indian country. The case involved Jim C. McGirt, an enrolled member of the Seminole Nation who was convicted by the state of sex crimes in 1997 and sentenced to 1,000 years plus life in prison. McGirt appealed, arguing that because the crimes took place on Native territory, the state shouldn't have been able to prosecute him at all. Acting as his own lawyer in court, McGirt cited an 1885 law called the Major Crimes Act, which gave the federal government jurisdiction over violent crimes committed in Indian country. The Supreme Court ruled in his favor in July. In November, he was retried and convicted in federal court. He now faces 30 years to life in prison. Meanwhile, the decision put hundreds of other eastern Oklahoma convictions in doubt. Now, dozens of Native Americans are using McGirt's defense to appeal for retrials. They're hoping for lesser sentences or even acquittals. Deborah Hampton, a criminal attorney in Oklahoma City, said about half her work since the ruling has been what she calls McGirt cases.
I couldn't believe it. I was just astounded and happy. My assistant and I were calling each other and we just couldn't get enough of it. And, and then my phone started ringing like crazy. Since McGirt, I probably have already filed about 30 cases throughout the state. I have several Native American clients. I have some that I didn't know were Native until this came out. For a lot of juveniles, it's their best chance to ever get relief because it doesn't matter what you do. Before the parole board, they say, due to the nature of the crime, we're going to deny you. That crime is never going to change.
One of Hampton's clients has been in prison since he was 17 when he was charged with murder. He's been denied parole 5 times.
When he was in high school, he and another guy used some chemicals and put in a friend's Coke, and he drank it and died. And this is one where I believe there is absolutely no intent on his part. He's 45 now, but at 15 or 16, he did not have the mindset to see what could happen. But I was in the area right after McGirt came out, so I asked to see him, and he was just elated and so excited. Danny is a member of the Creek Nation. He is still trying to gather up his papers, but on his, I think that the feds will not re-prosecute him, and hopefully it'll just be dismissed.
Considering the McGirt deal, for me it would be bad. It would just be to be able to have my case reopened and looked at again, and instead of dealing with the state, it would be the federal system. And I'd just like to have it reinvestigated because I know there's a lot of things done that shouldn't have been done in my case, and to be able to have that looked at, I think would be big, beneficial to me. And it does give a lot of people hope in here, because a lot of us up until this point haven't had much hope because the system in Oklahoma is really tough, dealing with the courts, parole board, or any other thing. It's a challenge.
The legal system, the justice system does not work for people of color. And I believe that there is so much prejudice in this country, but I'm just talking about Oklahoma because that's where I am, but you can just see the racism and feel it. And I'm Native American. I feel it sometimes.
The opponents of McGirt's case claim that recognizing the land as Native would set hundreds of criminals free, right into the streets.
They wanted to show sort of the sky is falling scenario, that tons of people would be released and that there would be massive lawlessness. And I just don't think that the data would support that.
In fact, the decision isn't likely to get many prisoners out at all. According to The Atlantic, fewer than 200 of the nearly 1,900 self-identifying Native Americans incarcerated in Oklahoma will even qualify for a retrial. So far, at least 4 people have had their sentences vacated, including one man who has been on death row for more than 20 years.
For a lot of people, if they consistently said, well, I'm Indian and my offense happened on Indian country, and they preserved that argument, they would have to weigh, okay, what was my sentence? How long have I been in jail? How long is it going to take for me to raise a habeas petition or seek some sort of appeal back before the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals? How long will that take? Am I better off just serving my time and moving on? Also, what are the potential penalties that I might face in federal court where there's no parole?
The decision is not only an unprecedented turn from the U.S. policy of brutal removals and broken treaties with many tribes, it's a legal victory in the nation's highest court. Indigenous activists hope it will set a precedent for future cases and radically alter Native American land rights.
So both on a law and policy basis, but also on a very personal, family, cultural basis, this case was critically important. When I read that first line of Justice Gorsuch's opinion, I knew where the opinion was going. And before reading the whole opinion, frankly, I ran to my boys' room and told them that their reservation remained, that their homes, their homeland had been affirmed and respected, and that we weren't to be erased in our own home. That's a powerful feeling, but any Native person from any tribal nation, but that idea of not being erased in your own home is very powerful to anybody, and that transcends any legal or policy implications of the decision.